Mark Halden had visited many places in the galaxy, human colonies, mining stations, drifting trade hubs, and even a floating monastery that smelled like old tea leaves. But nothing he had ever seen prepared him for the Zetherian Coalition embassy. The building itself looked alive. Its tall, crystal-like pillars reached so high that Mark felt dizzy looking up. Every surface glowed softly with shades of blue and silver, like moonlight trapped inside glass. The air hummed with faint music, created not by speakers but by the building itself, responding to movement. Mark was an engineer, not a diplomat. He had been invited only because he was one of the few humans working on a new energy project the Zetherians found promising and charmingly chaotic. Their polite way of saying, humans invented things by accident that sometimes worked better than planned. He only needed to walk through the main hall, smile politely, let the ambassadors greet him, and then listen quietly during the treaty ceremony. No trouble, no mistakes, no sudden disasters. That was what he had promised his team. But Mark had a long history of accidentally turning simple tasks into strange stories. And the Zetherian embassy, filled with hundreds of tall, armored aliens with glittering plates and elegant postures, was the last place where he wanted something to go wrong. The Hall of Delegates. The main hall was loud with conversation, voices deep, musical, buzzing, echoing. Zetherians used all four of their vocal chambers when speaking, and Mark felt as if he were standing inside a choir of metallic whales. He tried to move with confidence, but it was hard when he barely understood the customs. Humans bowed. Zetherians tilted their heads. Humans smiled. Zetherians flared small lights along their neck plates. Mark had spent the entire previous night studying etiquette. Do not offer handshakes, he reminded himself. Do not touch their armor. Do not stand too close. And definitely do not touch anything on their lower back plates. That area is private. Very private. Like, insult-level private. It was the sort of detail he repeated to himself every few minutes, terrified of forgetting. He carried a small datapad with the schedule. He clutched it like a shield as he walked through the crowd, trying to appear calm. Every time he passed a Zetherian, he made sure to leave plenty of space. Humans were small next to the Zetherians. Mark was average height, but these aliens stood taller. Their forms elegant and narrow. Their limbs long and delicate-looking, but strong. Their armor wasn't metal but a natural part of their body, smooth, curved plates arranged like living sculpture. Mark had been told Zetherians respected calm behavior, patience, and orderly movement. Unfortunately, Mark had none of those traits when he felt anxious. A sudden bump. He checked his datapad again, looking for the time of his introduction. He saw the line. Human representative. Mark Halden will greet Ambassador Shalivar. Hesan 30. With use life. Representative. With use life 2K. 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 He swallowed. Shalivar was famous, wise, strong, respected. She was also known for strict discipline and sharp honesty. A single wrong gesture could ruin the entire meeting. Mark rehearsed a small bow in his head. Lower head, hold for 1 second, rise slowly. Simple. He could do simple. He stepped forward. Someone bumped him from behind. Hard. Mark stumbled. The datapad slipped. He twisted to catch it. His balance vanished. He flailed, and his right hand flew out to steady himself. A Zetherian stood directly in front of him. His hand brushed something firm, smooth, and warm. A lower backplate. Silence hit the hall like a falling star. Mark froze. He didn't even want to look up. But he did slowly. Painfully slowly. The Zetherian he had touched was tall, elegant, and unmistakable. Her armor plates shimmered like polished silver. The markings across her shoulders were royal blue, the sign of a high-ranking warrior noble. It was Ambassador Shalivar. Of course it was. Of course Mark would accidentally touch the worst possible person in the building. The embassy holds its breath. Shalivar turned sharply, her glowing eyes locking onto Mark. Her face was unreadable, but the lights along her neck flared in a sharp, bright pattern. Shock. Offense. disbelief. Every Zetherian in the hall stopped talking. A slow ripple went through the crowd as heads tilted toward the scene. Even the building hummed differently, as if aware something important had just happened. Mark's heart hammered so violently he felt it in his ears. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. Shalivar looked down at him. She was a full head and a half taller. Her posture straight and powerful. Her voice, when she finally spoke, echoed like metal, ringing gently. "Human, what have you done?" Mark didn't know what to say. His brain picked the worst answer possible. I'm so sorry. There was bump. I was bumped. Someone bumped me. I didn't mean your armor part. Smooth. Perfect. A true disaster. Shalivar's reaction. Shalivar's eyes flickered. Zetherian expressions were subtle, but Mark could see the shock soften into something else. Confusion? Surprise? Offended dignity? She raised her hand, palm glowing faintly. Not to strike, but as a signal for silence. And the hall obeyed immediately. "You touched the lower honor plate of a Zetherian warrior," she said calmly, though her voice carried a deeper tone. "Such a touch is reserved for family or the closest of trusted allies. Among my people, it is a matter tied to respect." Mark felt his soul leave his body. I didn't mean anything like that," he blurted. "It was an accident. I swear, I'm sorry." Ambassador. The word accident was not common in Zetherian culture. They valued precision and intention. Nothing in their rituals accounted for a simple human-style mistake. Shalivar studied him carefully, almost too carefully. Mark stayed still, trying not to look like a frightened animal. He could only hope the Zetherians had a protocol for clumsy human error. He doubted it. Murmurs across the hall. Whispers rose from the crowd. Did he truly touch the honor plate? A challenge must be declared. But it was unintentional. No such concept exists in the rite. Mark's legs felt like jelly, his stomach twisted. He wanted to sink into the floor and disappear forever. He wished anyone would step in and explain that humans sometimes bumped, tripped, and stumbled. Humans made mistakes. But those mistakes didn't carry deep meaning. But no one moved. Everyone waited for Shalivar. Shalivar makes a decision. She looked around the hall, then back at Mark. Finally, she spoke slow, precise, formal. "Human Mark Halden," she said. "You have committed an act that, in Zetherian custom, demands recognition through a rite of confrontation." Mark's vision blurred for a second. A rite? Confrontation? What did that even mean? Before he could panic, she raised a hand. "But," she added, "I also recognize that your species behaves differently, that accidents may happen." A soft murmur ran through the crowd. This was unusual, Shalivar continued, her tone thoughtful. To ignore the rite would be a denial of tradition, but to punish a mistake would be unjust. She stepped forward, her voice strong yet calm. "Therefore, I will choose a middle path. A test not of aggression, but of sincerity and integrity. If you succeed, the insult is erased. If you fail, we must follow the old customs." Mark swallowed. Hard. He didn't know what the test was, but he could feel every eye in the hall watching him. Still, he did the only thing he could do. He bowed slowly, as he had practiced all night. "I accept," he said quietly. "And I truly am sorry." Shalivar watched him for a long moment. Then, barely visible, she gave the smallest nod of respect. The hall buzzed again, filled with new whispers, new curiosity, new tension. Mark had come for a simple diplomatic meeting. Instead, he had accidentally triggered an ancient alien rite, and tomorrow, he would face the consequences. Mark Halden did not sleep much that night. He sat on the small guest bed inside the Zetherian embassy quarters, staring at the soft, glowing patterns on the ceiling. The room was peaceful, warm, and quiet, but Mark's mind felt like a broken machine, spinning non-stop. Why did this happen to me? Why today of all days? Why did the universe decide that my hand should touch the ambassador's lower plate? He covered his face with a pillow and groaned softly. In the hall earlier, after accepting the test, He had been escorted to a resting room and advised to prepare mentally. He didn't even know what to prepare for. He didn't know the rules. He didn't know the customs. He didn't even know what the test looked like. He only knew one thing. If he failed, the ambassador would have to follow old customs, whatever that meant. And old customs never sounded good. Morning in the embassy. Morning light didn't shine into the room. Zetherians didn't use windows in the human sense. Instead, the walls brightened gently, imitating dawn colors. The gentle shift from dark blue to pale silver woke Mark. A Zetherian attendant waited outside his door, tall and calm, holding a thin glowing rod that served as both a guide and a screen. His voice came out with soft metallic tones. Human Mark Halden. Ambassador Shalivar requests your presence. The right chamber is prepared. Mark forced himself to stand. His legs were wobbly, but he nodded. Okay, he said, trying to sound braver than he felt. Lead the way. They walked through long crystalline corridors. The walls changed color as they moved, reacting to footsteps: blue for calm, green for curiosity. Mark wondered what color represented fear. Probably bright red. Hopefully the walls couldn't read humans very well. Every Zetherian they passed looked at Mark with interest. Some with confusion, others with amusement. They all knew. The entire embassy probably knew. Great, Mark thought. I'm a walking galactic rumor. Entering the right chamber. The chamber was huge, round, tall, and glowing. The ceiling curved up like the inside of a giant seashell. Strange symbols floated in the air, shimmering softly. The floor had 6 circular platforms arranged in a spiral. Ambassador Shalivar stood in the center, her armor glowing with soft silver light. Her posture was formal, calm, strong. Mark almost tripped over his own feet when he saw her. She gave him a slow nod. You came, she said. I did, Mark replied. I think my stomach stayed behind, but I made it. A few Zetherians near the wall whispered at his humor. Zetherians didn't joke much, so human humor always confused them. Shalivar tilted her head slightly. Mark couldn't tell if she approved or not. Before we begin, she said, you must understand the purpose of this test. Yes, please, Mark said quickly. I'd like to understand anything at this point. Her neck lights glowed softly, thoughtful, not angry. This is not a test of strength or combat, she said. It is a test of honesty, of spirit, of intention. Mark exhaled a little. That sounded survivable. She raised a hand, and the floating symbols swirled, forming a large circle between them. In Zetherian culture, she continued, a touch to the lower honor plate carries meaning. It says, I know you deeply. I trust you. You are close. If the touch is unwanted or without permission, the person must prove their intentions were pure. That made sense to Mark. It was like accidentally stepping on someone's cherished items or entering a private space. Cultural differences were complicated. So, Mark said softly, this test is to show I didn't mean disrespect. Correct, she said. Mark nodded. All right, I'll do my best. Explaining the test, Shalivar tapped the glowing circle in the air. It shifted shape, turning into 6 symbols, each floating above one of the platforms on the floor. These represent the 6 measures of integrity, she said. Mark squinted. The symbols didn't look like words. More like artistic shapes. She pointed to each one. Understanding, honesty, patience, responsibility, effort, and presence. Mark blinked. Presence? She nodded. It means the ability to be truly here, not lost in fear or confusion. To face what is before you with clarity. Mark felt sweat forming on his neck. This test wasn't physical. It was personal. These kinds of tests were always the hardest. Shalivar moved gracefully to the first platform. You will step onto each platform, she said. You will respond to the challenge it presents. Your answers will show your intent. Mark raised a hand nervously. These challenges, they're not dangerous, right? They are safe, she assured. But they may challenge your confidence. That didn't make Mark feel much better. Still, he nodded. Let's Let's do this. The first platform understanding. Mark stepped onto the first circular platform. It lit up under his feet, glowing soft blue. A holographic image appeared above it, Shalivar herself, standing calmly. A voice echoed gently, "Explain why the touch was wrong." Mark's heart skipped. This was like a truth exam. He took a deep breath. "It was wrong," he said slowly, "because it invaded your personal space. It touched an area that means something important in your culture. I didn't know what that area represented at the moment. But once I learned, I understood how serious it was. And I'm sorry I caused discomfort." The platform glowed brighter. Shalivar watched silently. Mark stepped off. The second platform, honesty. This platform glowed pale green. A new image appeared. Mark himself, reaching out, touching the lower plate. Mark wanted to hide. The voice spoke. "Would you repeat that action intentionally?" Mark raised both hands. "Absolutely not. Never. Not in a million years. Not even if someone dared me. Not even if I tripped again, I'd rather fall on my face." The platform pulsed with light approval. He moved on. The third platform, patience. This one glowed yellow. A small puzzle appeared in front of him, glowing blocks that had to be arranged in a certain shape. Zetherian puzzles were not human-friendly. The blocks floated, rotated randomly, and changed color every few seconds. Mark struggled. He turned the blocks. He tried to fit them. He failed. He tried again. He failed again. Zetherians watched curiously. Humans usually got frustrated quickly, but Mark didn't quit. He muttered to himself. He scratched his head. He tried pushing blocks with both hands. He even tried blowing on them, which made a few Zetherians tilt their heads in confusion. After many minutes, he finally formed the correct shape. The platform glowed bright gold. Mark laughed breathlessly. "That..." Shalivar's eyes softened. "Patience is tested through challenge." The fourth platform, responsibility. This platform showed the scene of the accident, Mark stumbling, the bump from behind, the accidental touch. The voice asked softly, "Who is responsible for this action?" Mark stared at the image. He could have blamed the person who bumped him. He could have said it wasn't his fault, but he didn't. "I am," Mark said quietly. "I didn't mean to do it, but it still happened because of me. I take responsibility." The platform glowed steadily. The fifth platform, effort. This one displayed a hologram of a tall wall. The voice said, "Show your effort." Mark stared. "Effort how? Climb it? Push it? Dance around it?" The Zetherians murmured. Humans asked too many questions. Shalivar stepped closer. "Show that you are willing to work. How you do it is your choice." Mark thought for a moment. Then he simply put both hands on the hologram and pushed with all his strength, of course. It didn't move. But he kept pushing, gritting his teeth, not stopping. After a long minute, the wall glowed bright white, meaning success. Mark stumbled back, breathing hard. "Okay. That one was dramatic." Some Zetherians actually chuckled, a rare sound. The sixth platform, presence. This was the final one. The platform glowed calm silver. No puzzle, no question, only silence. Mark stood there, unsure. "Do I do something?" he asked. Shalivar spoke softly behind him. "Do nothing. Just be here." Mark inhaled deeply. He steadied himself. He let his mind become still. For the first time since the accident, he let go of fear. The platform shined with a gentle, warm light. "The test ends." Shalivar stepped forward, her lights calm and even. "You have completed the 6 measures," she said. "Your answers were sincere. Your spirit steady. Your honesty clear." Mark swallowed. "So, does that mean?" She looked directly into his eyes. "The insult is erased." Mark nearly collapsed with relief. But Shalivar wasn't finished. "You have shown qualities I did not expect," she said softly. "Humans confuse us. Yet today, you have shown why your kind is respected. You face challenges with heart, humor, and determination." Mark blinked. "Wait. Respected?" She nodded. Then she added, in a tone both formal and warm, "Tomorrow, human Mark Halden, you will stand beside me during the treaty meeting, not as the one who made a mistake, but as the one who overcame it." Mark's mouth fell open. Him? Beside the ambassador? In front of everyone? This was unbelievable, but also strangely exciting. Mark Halden had survived the 6 measures. But that didn't mean his life suddenly became easy. In fact, things became even stranger. The next morning, Shalivar requested that he join her in the embassy's honor hall, a place usually reserved for Zetherian warriors, diplomats, and scholars. Mark was none of those things. He was an engineer who once accidentally broke a vending machine by leaning on it too hard, yet now he was walking through tall silver pillars, surrounded by important Zetherians carrying glowing scrolls and crystal tablets. Some looked at him with confusion, others with curiosity, and a few with hints of respect. Mark wasn't sure which reaction scared him more. A new expectation. Shalivar stood in the center of the hall, her armor reflecting gentle silver light across the walls. She looked calm, composed, and powerful, everything Mark was not. When she saw him, she lifted a hand in greeting. "You have arrived. Good. Thanks for inviting me," Mark said, trying not to sound nervous. "I still don't know why I'm here, but I'm trying to pretend I do." Several Zetherians nearby shifted with curiosity at his honesty. Shalivar's necklights glowed a soft blue, a Zetherian sign of restrained amusement. "You misunderstand," she said. "You are here because your test is not fully complete." Mark's stomach dropped. "Wait, the 6 measures weren't the whole test?" "They were the beginning," she said. "They showed your intention. But I must still evaluate how you react under pressure, not physical danger, but unexpected challenge." Mark felt a chill. "What kind of challenge?" Before Shalivar could answer, the hall lights dimmed, and the floor began to glow with soft, circular patterns. The honor trials began. The patterns extended outward, forming a large, glowing path that spiraled from one end of the hall to the other. Dozens of Zetherians gathered around, whispering. This was clearly something traditional, maybe even ancient. Shalivar stepped beside him. "These are the honor trials," she explained. "They were created long ago, not to test strength, but to test adaptability, creativity, and emotional balance." Mark stared at the glowing lines. "That sounds very complicated." "It is," she said. "Great." The first glowing circle pulsed gently. "Stand there," Shalivar instructed. Mark walked forward carefully and stepped onto it. The floor lit up beneath him. Trial 1. Balance without stability. The platform under Mark's feet vibrated gently. Then it tilted. Then it rotated. Slowly at first. Then faster. Mark shouted, "Whoa, hey, okay, this is not okay." The Zetherians watching remained perfectly still, observing with calm interest. Shalivar's voice echoed across the hall. "The first trial measures adaptability. You must remain upright while the platform shifts." Mark waved his arms like a confused windmill. The platform rocked like a small boat in a storm, except without water and with more humiliation. He bent his knees, tried leaning forward, then backward, then sideways. At one point, he fell onto his hands and knees, but he didn't give up. He crawled back to standing, wobbling and flailing. Zetherians murmured in surprise. Most species would simply fall and surrender, but Mark kept trying. After what felt like hours but was probably 2 minutes, the platform became stable again. Mark stood straight mostly because he was too dizzy to fall. Shalivar stepped forward slightly. "You persisted." "Good." Mark wiped sweat from his forehead. "Persisting is the only thing humans are good at." "Well, that, and making sandwiches." Zetherians tilted their heads at the mention of sandwiches, confused. Trial 2. The shifting path. The next glowing circle appeared farther down the hall. Mark approached it cautiously. This time, long glowing tiles spread out before him like a path, but the tiles kept moving, switching places, rising and lowering unpredictably. "It's a puzzle," Mark whispered. "A moving puzzle. A confusing moving puzzle," Shalivar explained. "You must walk the path without stepping off the glowing sections." "That's it?" Mark asked hopefully. "That is enough," she replied. Mark sighed. "Of course it is." He stepped forward. One tile rose too quickly, almost knocking him back. Another sunk so suddenly that he nearly stepped into a gap. The glowing sections changed to different patterns every time he blinked. Zetherians watched silently, expecting him to fail. But Mark did something unexpected. He stopped thinking about which tile was correct, and instead focused on the rhythm of the movement, the timing. He watched how tiles shifted, like watching gears in a machine. Slowly, carefully, he began stepping at the right moments. Jump, pause, step sideways, lean forward, slide to the next tile. It felt ridiculous. It looked ridiculous. But it worked. After a long, breathless journey, he reached the end. Some Zetherians clapped by tapping their finger plates together. It was the Zetherian version of applause. Mark bowed awkwardly. Thank you. I accept this applause on behalf of my terrible sense of balance. Trial 3. The Mirror of Self. The next part was different. A tall crystal object rose from the floor, shaped like a smooth, curved mirror, but the reflection wasn't normal. Instead of showing his appearance, it showed moments from Mark's past, embarrassing moments, a broken lab project, a failed presentation, a misread instruction that caused a small fire on an orbital station, his first attempt at public speaking, where he forgot half his words. Mark covered his face. Do we have to show all of these? Shalivar stepped closer. This trial tests emotional presence. You must watch without turning away. Mark lowered his hands slowly. One by one, the memories played out like holograms. Mark cringed, groaned, laughed nervously, and winced at his own awkwardness. But he didn't look away. When the last image faded, Shalivar said softly, You face your past with honesty. Many cannot. Mark breathed deeply. Humans get used to embarrassment. It's like breathing for us. A few Zetherians made soft clicking sounds amusement. Trial 4. The Puzzle of Voices. This trial surprised him most. A cluster of glowing orbs floated around him, each speaking in different tones. Some sounded encouraging. Some sounded doubtful. Some sounded confused. Shalivar explained, You must find the voice that speaks truth. Mark listened. Mark, you can do this. You are not enough. You will fail. You are trying, and that is enough. You made mistakes, but you learned. You are hopeless. The voices overlapped, making it hard to focus. Mark closed his eyes. He remembered his team on Earth, his friends, his family, people who believed in him even when he didn't believe in himself. He opened his eyes and touched one orb, the one that said, You are trying, and that is enough. The other orbs faded. Shalivar nodded. Correct. Mark shrugged. Humans don't always know the truth, but we know when something feels right. Trial 5. The Final Reflection. The last circle glowed warmly. This one showed a simple question on a floating hologram. Are you afraid? Mark stared at it for a long time. He could lie. He could pretend he was brave. He could act like this whole trial wasn't terrifying. But he didn't. Yes, he said softly. I'm afraid. But I'm still here. The hall fell silent. Shalivar stepped forward, her expression unreadable, but her lights gentle. That, she said, is the answer of someone truly honorable. The trials conclude. The hall lights brightened again. Zetherians murmured in surprise and respect. Mark felt his knees wobble, but he stayed standing. Shalivar placed a hand lightly over her chest, the Zetherian gesture of formal approval. You have completed the honor trials with sincerity, determination, and unexpected creativity, she said. You have shown that your mistake was not born of disrespect, but of circumstance. Aideden, Mark exhaled shakily. So, I passed? More than passed, she replied. You have earned a place at tomorrow's treaty meeting not as a guest, but as a recognized representative. Mark's eyes widened. He hadn't just avoided disaster. He had somehow earned respect, Shalivar added. And now the galaxy will see a human stand beside me as an equal. Mark's heart raced. This was beyond anything he imagined. The morning of the treaty meeting felt different from any other morning Mark Halden had ever experienced. The Zetherian embassy was quieter than usual. The glowing walls hummed softly, as if holding their breath. Even the air felt ceremonial, filled with a gentle silver mist that floated like drifting lights. Mark stood in his room, staring at himself in the mirror. His official clothes had been prepared by the embassy staff. Simple, dark, formal. Nothing fancy, but clean and dignified. He had never looked so official in his life. His reflection looked nervous. His reflection also looked proud, but mostly nervous. Mark took a deep breath. Well, let's hope I don't trip on anything today. A chime sounded at his door. When he opened it, Ambassador Shalivar stood on the other side, tall and elegant as always. Her armor was polished to a soft glow, the markings across her shoulders bright with ceremonial blue light. "Human Mark Holden," she said with calm warmth. "It is time." Mark nodded. "Right. Time to not mess things up." Her neck lights glowed with mild amusement. "Your presence here is already meaningful. You will do well." Walking to the grand hall, they walked together down long, silver corridors. For the first time, the Zetherians they passed didn't stare at Mark with confusion or suspicion. They bowed their heads. They tilted their neckplates respectfully. They regarded him not as an outsider, but as someone who had earned recognition. Some even clicked their finger plates softly, a gesture of greeting. Mark felt strange. Being respected was not something he was used to. "Are all these people being polite because they're scared of you?" Mark whispered to Shalivar. "No," she replied simply. "They respect you for completing the trials." Mark blinked. "Me? Respect me?" "Yes," she said. "Your perseverance impressed many." "Huh," Mark muttered. "Humans persevere mostly because we don't know when to quit." "For Zetherians," Shalivar answered. "That is considered admirable." Mark smiled weakly. "Well, then, I'm basically a hero by accident." She paused, then replied in a low, thoughtful tone. "Perhaps. But even an accidental hero is still a hero." Mark nearly tripped. The Grand Treaty Hall. The Grand Hall was enormous. Tall crystal pillars curved like rising waves. Floating screens displayed symbols representing both human alliance and Zetherian coalition. Hundreds of Zetherians filled the seats, rising in circular tiers. At the very center, a raised platform held two podium-like stands, one for Shalivar and one for Mark. He almost turned around and ran back. "Wait," he whispered. "That stand is my stand? In the center? In front of everyone? That can't be right." "It is correct," Shalivar said. "Today you stand beside me as witness and support." Mark swallowed hard. "But what if I say something stupid? What if I sneeze? What if I faint? Or—" "You will do none of those things," Shalivar said gently. "You only need to stand with confidence." Mark forced a shaky smile. "Confidence? Right. Sure. Totally have that." The ceremony begins. When Shalivar stepped onto the platform, the hall filled with soft light. Every Zetherian became silent. Their attention focused fully on their ambassador. Shalivar spoke in deep, resonant tones. Her words were calm, steady, full of authority. "Honored delegates, today we finalize a new chapter between the Zetherian coalition and the Human Alliance." The hall lights shifted to a warm silver glow. Mark stood beside her, trying to look calm. His heart beat loudly, but he kept his posture straight. Shalivar continued. "Yesterday, an unexpected event occurred. An incident that revealed differences between our cultures. And yet, through honesty, understanding, and perseverance, it became an opportunity for deeper connection." Delegates murmured with interest. Shalivar extended her arm toward Mark. "This human stood before our traditions, faced our challenges, and showed sincerity where many would show fear. He proved that intention matters, that accidents do not define character, and that humans possess courage of spirit." Mark's cheeks warmed. He wished he could disappear, but he remained standing. Shalivar added, "Because of this, the Zetherian coalition acknowledges the Human Alliance as not only allies, but as partners who carry strength of the heart." Soft applause spread through the hall, a gentle clicking of finger plates. Mark felt his eyes sting a little. He wasn't used to compliments. especially from an entire alien species. Mark's unexpected speech. Mark hoped he could just stand there the whole time without speaking. But Shalivar leaned toward him and whispered, "Now you speak." Mark's soul nearly left his body. "Me? Speak? Right now? In front of everyone?" She nodded. "Say what feels truthful." Mark stepped forward. The hall waited. Hundreds of glowing Zitherian eyes focused on him. His palms were sweating. His voice almost broke, but he spoke. Hi. I'm Mark. I am really honored to be here. Honestly, I didn't expect any of this. I just came here to visit. And then I made a mistake." Some Zitherians tilted their heads, listening closely. "I didn't know I did something important," Mark continued. "I didn't know I touched something that mattered. But when I learned, I wanted to fix it. And I tried. Maybe I didn't do everything perfectly. But I did my best." He looked around the hall. "Humans aren't perfect. We trip, we bump into things, we mess up. But we always try again. We apologize. We learn. That's what makes us, us." The hall was silent, but not in a bad way. It was the silence of attention. "And the Zitherians," Mark said softly, "have shown me something important too. You care deeply about respect, about meaning, about honor. It's beautiful. Even if humans don't always understand it right away." He inhaled deeply. "But that's why we need each other. You help us understand meaning. We help you understand accidents." A ripple of amused clicking moved through the hall. Mark finished. "And together, we can make something better than either of us alone. So, thank you for giving me a chance, and for seeing more than just my mistake. Something a pot of to 40. That's not a buy. And something my subaltern do. The Makar. 40 well. That's subaltern do. And Wanner. Telled into the 40, he stepped back, trembling. Shalivar gave him the smallest, proudest nod. The hall responds. For a moment, the hall remained still. Then, slowly, softly waves of clicking applause spread outward like growing light. Some Zitherians even stood. A rare gesture of great respect. Mark almost cried. He wiped his eyes quickly, hoping no one noticed. Shalivar stepped forward again. "With this, we finalize the treaty. Let it mark a friendship strengthened not by perfection, but by sincerity." The hall lights glowed bright silver. The treaty was done. After the ceremony, after the hall emptied, Mark sat on a crystal bench, still trying to breathe normally. His legs felt like jelly. His heart felt like it had run a marathon. Shalivar approached him. "You spoke well," she said. Mark shook his head. "I spoke something truthful," she corrected. "That is enough." Mark hesitated. "So, what happens now? Will people remember the incident forever?" Shalivar's neck lights glowed softly, warmly. "Perhaps. But they will not remember it as an insult. They will remember it as the beginning of understanding." Mark laughed weakly. "The great butt accident of the galaxy?" Shalivar blinked. "If humans wish to call it that, I cannot stop them." Mark grinned. "Oh, they will." She placed a hand over her chest. "Mark Halden, you have changed how Zitherians see humans. That is no small thing." Mark scratched his head. "I didn't plan to change anything. I just wanted to fix a mistake. Great changes often begin with simple intentions," she replied. "A new beginning." As they walked through the embassy together, Mark felt lighter. The fear was gone. The shame was gone too. What remained was something new: respect, connection, and a sense that he had become part of something larger than himself. He glanced at Shalivar. "So, Ambassador, does this mean I'm welcome here?" She looked down at him, her eyes glowing softly. "You are more than welcome," she said. "From this day forward, you are honored. And your presence will always be respected." Mark smiled widely. It had started with an accident. A terrible, embarrassing, unexpected accident. But it ended with alliance, with understanding, with friendship, and that was, perhaps, the most human ending possible.